Hi, I'm Arthur, and we're back on doing lists of random things again. Except this time, it's going to be a list of random, lesser-known Xenos races in the 40k universe that I think are kind of neat. There are no criteria for them, I just think they're fun to talk about. Xenos, as a concept in 40k, are so much more interesting than a lot of the other elements in my opinion. See, with chaos, it can be interesting, if not a bit predictable, which I find is a little bit counterintuitive to the idea of chaos. But with Xenos, there is sometimes no rhyme or reason to what they do. Look at the Tyranids. They got some funky shit going on right now, and I think they're just neat. But aside from the Eldar, the other Eldar, the other Eldar, and the new other Eldar that no one plays, there isn't much spotlight on anything other than the Tyranids, Orcs, and Necron. Yes, I am aware, I'm obsessed with the Leagues of Votann. They just haven't gotten any lore or any books other than maybe, I think, one scene in the entirety of the Arcs of Omen. Please be nice to me, I will cry. So, yeah. Here are 3 Xenos species that I think are neat, and I swear to whatever god will listen, I don't think you'll know about the last one. Because I had so much trouble finding literally anything about them, and they're in like one book. I've talked about these guys before, in a YouTube short before. But I kind of want to give them a bit more of a spotlight right now for longer than like 40 seconds. The Hrud are super fucking scrunkly looking. They are weird, evil, time magic starfish people. Or giant rats. I know the rat thing got retconned out, but like, follow me on this, it's kind of funny. Basically, Warhammer Fantasy was the first property to come out of the two, 40k and Fantasy. When Warhammer came out, they decided it would be a great idea to make the same thing again, but in space. One of the more popular and interesting races in the fantasy setting were the Ratmen, aka the Skaven. So in order to make an equivalent in 40k, they made them have lore similar to the Skaven initially in fantasy, while also being the Ratmen, so that they could have like interlocking models you could cut and, you know, turn into whatever you want. That totally got retconned. There's no argument you can make to explain to me otherwise. Because that is not this. There's no way to explain that other than in lore one of the xenologists was being senile and easily confused. The real Hrud, or at least most modern interpretation of them, is this weird evil thing. What makes them so interesting to at least me is that they fuck with time and space. So if you don't read the books and you only watch the lore videos on YouTube and, you know, go on Reddit and all that, there's this kind of misconception I see a few people who do lore kind of talk about with them, and that's that they only speed up time around them, aging things to dust, which isn't completely accurate. They fuck with time in ways we don't fully understand. They can reverse it, or speed it up, or slow it down. Speeding it up is a good way to fucking kill most anything, and in large numbers the effect is amplified, turning humans to dust in seconds, and giving Space Marines maybe like 2-3 minutes alive near large amounts of them. But as an example of the other side of things, where it reverses time, I remember one passage in I think the Perturabo book, where a servitor was reverse-aged to the point where the guy he once was lost all the weird robot cyborg shit and was extra confused where he was because his body reverted back to where it was before it was some lobotomite zombie cyborg slave. Then he swiftly turned into a ball of protoplasmic goop, while others around him just fucking died horribly, turning into powder. Though, to be honest, I don't really have an idea of which I would prefer of the two. A fun lore extract from them is that it proves that a Space Marine at some point can die of old age. It's definitely several thousand years of age, but Space Marines can die like all things. one of the Space Marines, the Chad named Dantiok, ended up aging, I think they stated, over 3,000 years because of it, being barely able to stand. I'm going to be straight with you all. I'm picking this one just because it's a bit of a meme in my head. I love the ur-ghul. I love all the little weird scampering monsters that follow the Drukhari into their fuck bits, but the ur-ghul has this distinction of being the alien species with the world's strongest nose. I'm not kidding. The sniffer on this fucker is so strong he can pick up warp signatures. Allegedly. We can't really tell. But isn't it just funny to think that this weird blue monster with no eyes and 5 noses can smell your fucking ghost? There isn't much to know about them, to be honest. They have a cute little model, and I think they got something in the Blackstone Fortress set, and are almost insignificant in the lore to a ludicrous degree. They're like some weird monster pest that shows up in mass amounts that bothers local towns on some Hive City worlds. They're just little guys. They come whenever the Drukhari leaders summon their forces to fight and murder on some distant planet. They live in a lot of dark and evil places in the universe, and are common enough that people get concerned when their genetic structures is weirdly similar to human. It could be convergent evolution, where at the end of the day, having a god-tier schnoz is just inherently better than eyes, but to be honest, it's probably just a weird Drukhari experiment where they fucked around too much and made some weird big-nosed mutant to send to the different worlds of the universe through the webway. I mean, it does make sense. That would, at least that's what makes the most sense to me. God, their model did not age well. It looks so silly. Little man's stanced the fuck up. Okay, this one is going to be hard to fucking edit. Because I have only ever read one book that had these fucking things in them, and it's the ur-ghul Primarch book. And if they are in anything else, I would love to read more. But essentially, during ur-ghul's time in the Crusade fleet, doing, crusade-y things, he was plotting things out in a large breadth of space with no link to the Astronomicon. He found these ships that were basically invisible and occupied with entities that could distort the vision and viewfinders of everything around them in such a way that even Space Marines had trouble seeing them, and let alone hitting them with their weapons. It was a long and bloody drawn-out war with the Unseen, which is what they are called. Eventually, some were captured. They were revealed to look almost identical to humans, and initially they were thought to be humans. But they wouldn't be here if they were just humans, right? They tried to psychically interrogate one of them, but it immediately killed the shit out of the Unseen. They found out that they had these weird growths all over their brain that they initially thought were surgically added devices. Eventually, ur-ghul brought the whole fleet of the Unseen to heel, which is where we find out a lot of their weird lore. Basically, the Unseen, as they refer to themselves, are the Capiculu Continuum. They think they are human, but due to the fact that thousands of years ago, they were slaves to an advanced race known as the Regency of Doeth, their genetic code was fucked with. The weird growths in their head were called the Mind Bonds, which made it so that they could use the psychically charged warp gates, but could not be psychic themselves. The Regency of Doeth died a long-ass time ago, but the Capiculu ended up staying with the weird brain deformity as a genetic trait. In a private room, ur-ghul looks at his man and says something to the effect of, "Hey boys, I ain't never heard of no human with mind bonds." Then he proceeded to genocide the living fuck out of every last one of them, basically labeling them not human enough to be a part of the human race. Also, one of the contributing factors is that in their history, they did do a lot of, uprisings, betrayal, and revolting against authority. Yeah, he gunned them all down and killed the whole race. Thus is the way of humanity, don't you know? It's kind of funny that the dividing line between human and not really depends on how useful you are. I mean, this is okay, that is not. Selective racism aside, what do you guys think? I think I like making these 3 random things videos. They are kind of fun, though I don't want to focus on them as my main piece of content. I don't want to spread the topic out too much, so I might focus on like a few specific versions of this series and then never really broaden it to be like, oh, 3 random swords I like. Ooh, that's, yeah. So I might do more in a similar vein. What kind of minor lore tidbits would you guys like to know about? Because, well, I make it for you guys, so just let me know what you want to hear. And on top of that, what are some funny aliens you like? Any interesting ones you can think about? I'd love to know about them. I love the little weird gaggle of freaks that follow the Drukari around. They're so fucking weird. I like the weird Cyclops, brain melter, parasite, emotion thing. God, it's so weird looking, but I love it. Regardless of your comments, like and subscribe. As you could probably guess, I have some more videos on the way. Till next time, I wish to leave you with my strife. That is, that every time I was listening to the audiobook of Rogel Dorn, the Primarch novel, whenever they said Capiculu, it just reminded me of that one deli meat. You know, Capicolo. Which, if you don't know, is the original way to fucking pronounce Gabagool. Every time someone said it in the book, I just got a flashback to The Sopranos, which is also a little funny because I too like to hard cut on my